alongside with Vincent Rapasardi and newcomer Anilo Piro. Guys, how are we doing today?
Doing great, Corey. How are you?
I'm doing good on this Saturday. I'm a little upset because my Star Wars movie today that I wanted to see at 4:30 was sold out, and then the 5 o'clock showing, well, the only seats that were open was the first 2 rows in front of the big screen. So
That sucks. Hey, you gotta go see it though. If
That's
you got
rough, yeah.
anyone that's gonna listen to this, you gotta go see it. I just saw it on the opening night. That movie is insane.
it is.
Yeah, it's real good. It's real good.
I'm
I'm not
seeing
gonna
it
spoil
tonight.
anything. Are you?
Yeah,
Oh, you're gonna love it, bro.
can't wait.
It's-
Can't wait.
I haven't heard of any spoilers, but I'm probably going to ruin it right now. And here's how I ruin it. Now, I didn't see Luke Skywalker in the previews, but I see him casted in the movie.
Mhm.
Actually, casted is not a word. I should know that. But he was cast in the movie, and it makes me think. Anyways, today's topic that Elite Sports New York is going to talk about is Rose. Pete Rose. That's the guy that we want to talk about today. Earlier this week, new commissioner Rob Manford finally came back with the decision in whether Pete Rose will be reinstated in baseball. He is not going to be reinstated in baseball. But my question for you, Vince, first is, if he's not going to be reinstated in baseball, then why did he have, Cincinnati having this whole big all-star game reception for him and him being allowed on Fox Sports 1 in last year's playoff coverage?
Well, I think it was kind of his case to be made. I think he was trying to make his case as far as, he's still involved in the game, he still loves the game, that there's a passion, that he didn't just bet on the game if he did or he didn't. He didn't just do it because, he's selfish. There's still a passion for the game, and that what happened back then isn't representative of what he is and who he is as a person and his character, and it's just his feelings towards the game.
Okay. Anilo, you know that Pete Rose is by far the all-time hits leader with 4,256.
Mhm.
Nobody has really even gotten close to that number outside of Ty Cobb, who played, way before Pete Rose played, and that was a different era. Is that record ever going to be broken?
Oh, that's so hard to say, honestly, in my opinion. I mean, Pete Rose is a guy that obviously I didn't get to see him play. I'm too young. But based on what my father's told me and everyone that I know that's in the older generations told me, is that this guy was unbelievable. And all the footage I've seen, all the numbers I see when I do my research on him, I mean, this guy was a stud, to say the least. He played the game hard, played the game with treated the game with respect, and he did everything that he should have done when he was on the diamond. Now he did make some mistakes off the diamond, but I really don't think we'll ever see another guy like Pete Rose. I mean, Pete Rose is a guy that is one of these guys that comes along once every 100 years. So we might have to wait a big amount of time until we see another guy like him, but I really don't think anyone's going to break that record.
Well, let me ask you this then, Nilo, and then I'll get back to you, Vincent. Had Ichiro Suzuki, come into the major leagues at, let's say, age 21 instead of, his late 20s, and I think Ichiro actually had over 3,000 Major League Baseball hits, would he have been the one to have broken it?
Yeah, that's a good point to make. I think Ichiro's a guy that, I mean, obviously I can't say if he would or not, but he's a guy that definitely had a legitimate chance to do it. Obviously he came in the league at an older age, so he's not going to break the record now, but he's a guy that, if he would have came in, like you were saying, at the age of 21, most likely would have had a legitimate chance to break it. None of us are ever going to be able to say if he would or not, but Ichiro, I think, is the guy that if you had to choose one person that would have come closest, it's definitely him.
Now, Vincent, if it wasn't for Pete Rose, would the Great Red Machine, would they have won the World Series titles that they did without him? Now, I know they had Joe Morgan, Johnny Bench, Dave Concepcion, and other great ball players, but would they have been the Great Big Red Machine without Pete Rose?
Again, I can't really say because I wasn't alive during that time to watch every game or to watch a season or watch parts of a season. But I think from what I've seen, from what I've heard, statistically what I've seen, And then him being a player manager at one point, I think it was a testament to the importance that he was for his team as far as being that gritty guy, a leader on and off the field. He wasn't perfect, obviously. There's a reason he's banned from baseball. He has his own issues, of course, but at the same time, he brought a competitiveness that rivaled and was better than just about anybody else that played during his time, and maybe we've ever seen, to be honest. I mean, the slide during the All-Star game where he took out, not sure who the catcher was at the time, but I know he got pretty dinged up after that. It
Yes,
just shows you what kind of player he was.
His name was Ray Fosse on the Cleveland Indians.
And there you go. And I think that is the perfect play that just really symbolizes the type of player that he was and what he brought to a team right there in an All-Star game.
Now, if you had to ask Pete Rose, he was on the Colin Cowherd show a couple months ago. If you had to guess which legendary pitcher he had the most difficult time facing, you guys want to make a quick guess?
Ooh. Let's see. The most legendary pitcher. I mean, it's hard to say because this guy hit everything and anyone. I mean, Pete Rose was a guy that could literally, Doc Gooden, he could hit Noah Syndergaard, he could hit Tom Seaver, he could hit, really anyone. I think it's really hard to say that.
Well, let me stop you real quick. Noah Syndergaard.
No, but I'm considered the velocity aspect of it.
Yeah.
I'm saying he could hit 60-mile-an-hour knuckleballer and he can hit 103-mile-an-hour flamethrower. I think it's so hard to say. Because this guy was a.
I'll give you the answer, but I wanna get Vincent's take on the question too, on the legendary pitcher that comes to mind that he had trouble hitting against.
I feel like it's one of the Nicaros. The Nicaros. I feel like it was a knuckleballer. I don't know. That's my only guess. If I'm even pronouncing his name right, Phil Nicaro, one of those guys.
Phil Nicaro's a good guess. It was actually lefty on the Brooklyn Dodgers, Mr. Sandy Koufax.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Good choice.
He batted against him a $1.75. But everybody else, like Warren Spahn, Don Sutton, Bob Gibson, over 300 easily. So it really went to show that he got his hits off guys and made it count too, to his credit. Were you guys, when you were following last year's playoff coverage on Fox Sports 1 before, it went over to Fox for the World Series, did you guys watch Pete Rose on the panel with Frank Thomas and Kevin Burkhardt too?
Yeah, honestly, like I said, I feel like it was almost his way of kind of showing that he still loves the game. Honestly, I don't watch any of the pregame and postgame because I think it's all garbage anyway. I don't think he brings anything to the table I'd want to listen to. None of those guys do. Frank Thomas, I could care less what he has to say. Really, none of those guys. But I think it's just to show baseball that he's still there and that he's not going to leave until he is reinstated and he's back in the game. And obviously hasn't worked just yet.
I want to quickly show something that kind of, to me, shows who Pete Rose really is. So if you give me a second and stay tuned, here we go.
One, we go back to Houston, who's got the edge roll. I'm sorry. Looked like you saw a ghost. What were you doing? What? He's crying, dude. You ready?
This guy, he's just a goof. He's a clown right now.
Astros Royals. Who you got, Raul? I think they're going in it.
It's the whole entire. There's like another minute and a half of just them just cracking up because of Pete, and I don't know. I just thought it was kind of funny. It kind of just shows who he is in a way, kind of a clown in some regard, the way he carries himself. And I think my point going is that I think one of the reasons why he was also not reinstated was because he openly admitted to the commissioner that he still to this day, bets on baseball.
Mhm.
What do you guys, Anilo, what do you think about that? That he uses DraftKings, FanDuel, and still gambles.
Yeah, let me pull this up. So I actually was able to meet Pete Rose over the
Nice.
summer. So this is a picture of one of my buddies and Pete Rose. And he's a nice guy. I'm just going to say it out loud. I mean, I was able to talk to him for a couple minutes, talk some baseball with him. I mean, real nice guy. I had nothing but positive words to say to him. But as far as him still betting on the game, I mean, it's obviously just going to hurt his chances. And I was listening to him when he made his statement after he got, denied reinstatement, and he's saying, "I want to enjoy my life. Everything I'm doing is legal. Blah blah blah." But I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that he loves the game of baseball. But if you love the game of baseball enough to want to get yourself back in the Hall of Fame, I don't think you should be allowed to, or you can't be gambling. I mean, it's what got you in trouble. So I think I'm not going to say shame on Pete Rose, but I think, like you were saying, Corey, that definitely hurt his chances tenfold because this is a guy that claims he's better, claims that he's, not the same person he was way back when, but he's still an avid gambler. I mean, and it's probably not as bad as it used to be, but he's still laying money on games.
Yeah, and Bob Lee, who I like a lot, to watch outside the lines every now and then. He was doing a thing on Pete Rose, which wasn't too long ago. A lot of the papers of his gambling and the money that he gambled with on a daily basis in all the games. I'm talking every sport too. Basketball's in there, all the teams of baseball. I mean, we're talking like this guy would lose $20,000 on some nights on gambling. It's ridiculous. Vincent, any take on that?
Yeah, I mean, he kind of looks like that type of person. I don't know, his attitude and the way that he represents himself, he kind of seems like that type of person. To be honest, though, like, I don't know why it's such a big deal. Like, I understand, we know how great he is. Is it going to change my life if he's in the Hall of Fame? Is it going to change your life? Is it going to change anyone's life? Nobody. Nobody really cares except for Pete. And I think that baseball is such a stubborn sport. I mean, the game is literally the same game that it's been forever. And it's because they bring in so much revenue for a 162-game season. You would think that at this point maybe they would cut the season down a little bit. I mean, 162 games is ridiculous. But because baseball keeps making money, they don't care. They're very stubborn. And I think their stubbornness with this Pete Rose issue is continuing. But I also think that there's more to this story. I don't think it was, Pete tried his best and baseball just doesn't want to bring him back. There's something more to this. From what I've heard, they actually offered to bring to undo the ban that they had on him if he was willing to kind of accept that he made his mistake and that a couple of other things were involved, and he didn't want to do it at the time. From what I heard, I'm not saying this is 100% correct, but there's more to this story. It's not as simple as people think. I'm going to say that.
And you know what? Not only that, but maybe Pete's legacy is sort of maybe in some ways he likes it not being reinstated back into baseball. He'll always kind of have that notoriety about him.
Of course.
That the all-time hits leader is always talked about and speculated, and he's that guy that again I believe in Cooperstown. I'm pretty sure he actually has some emblems and plaques and statistics that's already in Cooperstown. So in a way, he's sort of already in it.
Yeah. I think, I got to agree with you there. And I think I want to touch on the point that Vince made about how baseball is a stubborn game. And I think Vince hit it right on the head with that because baseball is a stubborn game. It's a game that, doesn't like to change things too often. And I think Pete's a guy that understands that. And I think, like you were saying, Corey, he likes that little bit of a chip on his shoulder because he knows he'll always be talked about.
He will. I don't know. Vince also brought up a good point that, it's all right, if you just tell us the truth already, maybe we can be more open-minded to having you fully reinstated again. But I remember it was 15 years ago at another All-Star game when he was allowed to be there for the first time back in baseball in a while, and he had an interview with Jim Gray. And Jim Gray asked him a question, all right, Pete, so did you bet on baseball? and like he gave Jim Gray the biggest attitude ever on live TV. Like you're gonna ask me that kind of thing, so I suggest you guys to definitely pull up that video. Maybe after when we finish up shortly. Again, this is Elite Sports New York, guys. Before we wrap this up, any last words on what you think happens with Pete Rose, who by April will actually be turning 75 years old. So don't let the dye brown hair fool you.
Oh yeah.
I agree. I'll touch on it a little bit. So, I mean, one big thing that I think needs to be voiced, that obviously has been voiced a little bit, is I think if you're going to put the guy in, don't wait until he dies. Because what service is that going to do? Make the guy, wait until he passes, until you put one of probably the greatest hitter in all of the baseball in the Hall of Fame? I think you should either put him in before he dies or don't put him in at all. Because I just think you'll be doing a disservice to the game by letting him die, then putting him in. To go off that, I think he should be in personally. I think you could have someone that killed someone 40 years ago that could be out of jail that played baseball. He could be in the Hall of Fame if you let him vote in. I think you're going to let guys like Barry Bonds and Mark McGwire, guys that cheated on the game, that are now major league hitting coaches, and you give them the chance to be put in the Hall of Fame. I think you should at least put Pete on the ballot, is what I'm saying. I think you have to let the voters at least decide if he's worthy to or not. Because I think if you're going to let guys that cheated while they played the game in, or at least cheated, let them get voted in, I think you have to let Pete get voted in as well.
Well, that's the whole point. I mean, they don't want to reinstate this guy, but he's allowed to cover postseason baseball, and in a way, he's manipulating everybody by being in baseball. By having people, by soaking up the camera and everything.
Yeah.
Vincent, what do you think about the other baseball players that have cheated and them being back in the game, as to what Anilo just brought up?
Well, I mean, if we look at the punishment for each offense is, Pete's punishment for what he did was to permanently be banned from the game. And when you're suspended for using steroids, it's 50 games, and if you do it again, it's a certain amount. If third time, this and that. So, there's a price to pay for stupidity. And when you do something stupid, there's rules and there's regulations. And for what Pete did, that's the outcome. That's what it was. You're banned from the game of baseball because of what you did. And we live in a society where it's like, oh, well, we forgot, and we feel bad, and this and that. He broke the rules, and he knew what the consequence was. And like I said, there's a price to pay for stupidity. And his stupidity led to him being banned from the game, and that's where he should be. I don't think we should give him a pass. I think it's interesting what you brought up, Corey, about he's still sticking his head around. He's still on Fox Sports, and he's in commercials. And to be honest, him not being in the Hall of Fame has been better for him marketing-wise than if he was in the Hall of Fame. Because like you said, he's the guy that's known for having the most hits in baseball history, yet he's not in the Hall of Fame. How did that happen? That makes no sense. Well, look what he did. So I think it's actually worked out for him because he's been able to market himself perfectly because of that. So at the end of the day, he broke the rules. He knew what the consequences were. And I'm totally fine with that happening to him and Mark McGwire being a hitting coach, because the penalty for what Mark McGwire did was he didn't get suspended or anything, because it happened after. Obviously, we really found out after he played the game. But if he did play, or if, in A-Rod's case, he was still playing, he got his suspension and then he came back. Those are the rules. So I'm totally fine with what baseball's doing.
All right, let's let the Rose decide real quick if he'll be in the Hall of Fame. So he'll be in the Hall of Fame. He won't be in the Hall of Fame. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. He won't be in the Hall of Fame. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. He won't be in the Hall of Fame. He'll be. He won't. He'll be. He won't. He'll be. And the last one, oh no. Oh no. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. Oh man. Crushed. All right, guys. So I think that ends the Rose for now, and we'll be back to cover again anything that's going on hot stove wise. Certainly, NFL playoffs are coming up soon, And hockey, basketball, new elite staff members. Anilo, you did a great job today. Vincent, always great analysis as always. One of the
Corey.
best out there that I know, seriously. And guys, have a good weekend. Enjoy Star Wars tonight, Vince. And
Thank you.
we shall do this again very soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Corey. Thanks, Anila.
See you guys soon.
Elite Sports New York out. All right, guys. Have a good weekend, all right?
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Corey.
Cool.
See you, Anila.
Later.